I don't know why we're doing this.
Because you love us, James.
Welcome to BeerThralls presents the Beer Protocol. I'm the normal one.
Sorry, was that the one? You said 3, 2, and then said fuck, and I wasn't
Hi,
sure.
James, and happy 4th of July to
I'm drinking
people.
water because apparently they've had enough from me.
I need like slimmer headphones.
You need a
This
slimmer head.
ad's just
All right, Agent Smith, who are you?
hi, this is Jacob. Okay, enough. Ah!
What are you drinking? What have you been drinking?
This is a fine, dark, and stormy.
And Randy, Macho Man Savage.
I am drinking truly.
Oh God, I thought you were gonna drink something manly. All right, so Clink.
Clink.
All right, let's talk about how they fucked us over.
No.
James,
They
we're wearing
fucked
sunglasses.
me over.
Oh, because the
We're
future's so bright, we're gonna
The
get skin
future of
cancer.
Marvel Crisis Protocol is so bright.
Yeah.
I'm using it so that way I don't have to watch it Black Order's demise. Thank you very much.
It hides the tears.
It has,
It very well. That and the beard. It
The
just
beard.
soaks them up.
Yeah.
It's great moisturizer.
So, our topic of conversation today is going to be a little free roaming. I feel like we'll try to keep it relatively brief, but we're going to talk about the new events and sort of rules format changes that were released and announced beginning of this month. No, June 24th. Only about a week and a half old, I think, at this point.
It feels so much older.
So the big news
Pain
is
usually does.
Yeah.
the big news is they've announced a new format called Challenger that is going to be basically the sort of standard event format going forward, with the new tactic card pack, which has reprints of a lot of cards. Part of the reason is a lot of those cards. There you go, buddy.
Oh, you have it already. Oh, that's what you're putting on your head. Got it.
Yeah.
I'm smart.
A lot of the tactic cards in the reprint have new set icons. So going forward, cards and resources in the game will be associated with specific sets, which are going to have a symbol like the X-Men, the hammer for Asgardians,
Yep.
so on and so forth. And over time, they're going to rotate certain sets in and out of standard legal play. Yes, I said standard instead of challenger because this is essentially the same format Magic the Gathering has been using for a decade. There is also an announcement there's going to be an extended timeline, which allows for everything. Extended basically is them sort of giving recognition of the fact that people are going to want to play what they own. And so they're giving tacit permission for everyone to run extended events where you just play everything.
Right.
So I do give them props for at least acknowledging that's a thing.
Does the extended tournament format mean that the restricted rules still exist?
For extended, no.
Okay.
It's a Thunder Road basically.
Okay.
Now they do reserve the right in the future to change their mind and ban something out of everything forever.
Yep.
But this does at least give an event format where you could play drop off or hired muscle and whatever deviant shenanigans you want.
Ooh, Wakanda herbs.
Don't play Wakanda herbs. Don't play
friends.
Wakanda
Don't
herbs.
let friends play Wakanda herbs. Okay.
Good thing I'm not your friend.
So, a number of cards have been de facto rotated out because they weren't reprinted in the pack and didn't get set symbols, and they're essentially no longer in Challenger. You can read the rundown of the exact cards and the changes in a number of places. We're going to kind of talk a little bit about how does this affect roster building, how does it affect our gameplay, and what do we predict is going to go down going forward. As we get going along with the announcement for Challenger, I will point out they gave us something that I have been wanting for a while, and a number of people who have tried to run tournaments and events have wanted for a while: official Crisis Protocol event rules. This is a huge like most announcements in a active game community, this has positives and negatives. Positives, we get codification and we get kind of standard for how to go forward on a number of things. Negatives, the competitive players have been fed. And now they will only demand more as the game will increase its competitiveness and will become more a game about competition.
We will
I mean,
have we
it
will
is a
have
game
the
about
It is
competition.
already.
yeah.
But I thought you were drinking a dark and stormy.
What are you talking about? That's a margarita.
All right, James, and you're the one calling me an alcoholic on this or dressing like this.
I
I've only
didn't
had
call you
one
an
truly.
alcoholic. I just call you Matt. You just assume alcoholic is attached to it.
I mean, that's fair. It's like Thor is randomly filling
Wow.
up.
He is double fisting. You know what? I'm gonna
I
drink
don't
my water.
I don't know what you're talking about. You're drinking a dark and stormy.
Uh huh.
All right.
So, what were some of the big names that got rotated out? Let's go ahead. Kind of general trends. Okay, really, really big names. Field dressing and med pack are rotated out. These are the most efficient bang for buck methods of healing in the game. The only
Yep.
tactic card, the only non affiliated tactic card that can heal that's left is Patch Up, which has never been particularly popular. Because
Because
while
you
Is
you can
have
now.
heal,
field dressing and med pack.
Patch Up lets you heal an ally non-dazed at a 1-to-1 ratio of 1 power per health. However, it lacks two really important things that made MedPack, if you ever needed healing, your go-to. You cannot patch up yourself. You have to
Right.
patch up an ally. MedPack could be played by a model on itself. It was also more efficient, 2 power for 3 health. Because of that, patch up practically never got played.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Now
you
it'd be
don't have
played
a
all the
choice
time.
anymore. Field dressing led to a lot of sort of really interesting turnaround active gameplay of you revive someone at the end of a round while your opponent can't react. You potentially get to trick the turn order in certain ways. But I, for one, don't know how positive that made it for the other player. And so that's what I'm not sad to see get the axe. I know a lot of people made it a core part of their roster, and we're going to have to figure out new ways to adapt.
I
That one
kind
I'm
of
actually okay with.
yeah, I'm okay with that one too.
Some of the other really big ones that people were kind of surprised got the rotation hit are movement based cards such as climbing gear and extreme conditioning and tactical analysis, all ways to improve movement and mobility. Climbing
Yeah.
gear and tactical analysis gave you short moves out of activation potentially, led to a lot of strategic plays, repositions, and extreme conditioning lets you turn any character into a long mover for one activation. Was
I'm
a really important part of getting certain slow pokes like Kingpin, the new
Mysterio.
Mysterio, getting
the
them to a
new
point.
Blackwater.
Wow, it's not Supernova. It's Supernova.
It's Supernova.
Yeah.
Getting Supernova into position would have been really important.
No, Super
However, those
Giant.
options,
Super Giant.
Whatever.
Thank
Super
you.
Giant.
Oh my God. That those are now kind of off the table. There are still some movement abilities at affiliation specific instances, and we're going to kind of touch on that as a theme a little bit later. Offensive related cards also got a big hit. Battle Lust, Blind Obsession, and Seeing Red and All You've Got are all gone.
That is
Those were
unfortunate.
For
a
you, Mr.
lot of.
Criminal Syndicate.
I know.
Ooh, I don't know. All You've Got was basically a lot of people's back pocket ace in the hole.
Yep. I don't care if that goes away. Blind Obsession,
Seeing
though.
Blind
Welcome to my
Obsession.
misery.
In addition to Blind Obsession, one of its other common brethren, Bitter Rivals, also bid it. Bitter Rivals going is probably one of the other just big names because that was a generic, super effective debuff you could slap on any given cluster once it got going, and it just dropped attack and defense in a huge radius. So, with all of these very commonly taken cards rotated out, where does that kind of leave the state of roster building, the state of the game? I think they were taking direct aim at sort of cookie cutter rosters that were like 50% identical.
Yeah.
In terms
The it's just like cool. Your roster looks really cool. The tactic cards are all the same. Everyone had the same tactic cards. Or some variation of like 3 or 4 different groups.
Yeah. Because even ourselves, we're just like, okay, if you want to play an affiliation in our affiliation videos, we're like, these cards in
Medpack.
affiliation are super strong. Then you take Medpack.
You take Brace for
strongly
Impact.
You take Brace for Impact.
consider Disarm. Spoiler, Disarm's on the restricted list now. So another interesting thing that kind of rotated out, Acute Senses, and where is it? Marked for Death, I want to say, but maybe I'm wrong about that one. God damn it. Sorry.
We're prepared.
Okay. Acute Senses is gone. Marked for Death is not. That was my confusion.
Dang, I actually liked Acute Senses.
Acute Senses was one of the ways to get around stealth. However, I've argued for a while. I think Marked for Death is a lot better.
Marked for Death was a little bit better, but yeah.
Some stealth mitigation tools that were also pared down a little bit. With a lot of what are honestly kind of exploitable cards out, where does that leave? What do you have left to play with?
I mean, it is going to. I think all this is going to do is create a new 4 to 5 grouping of tactic cards. Now that we don't have friggin' Brace for Impact,
no, you have it. It's just restricted.
But still, it's
Brace for Impact has been restricted for a year.
Yeah,
that's not new.
Well, yeah, but I'd say we should probably go over the other restricted cards too, because 2 of the reality gems are now restricted.
That's true. You're very upset about that. So one of the other big changes is that 2 of the Infinity Gems, Reality and Space, are now restricted. So
why is that, Jake?
Because they're good.
They're so
also
good.
Because Black Order just got 2 really good models. So here, take some on the chin.
They got 1.5 good models, so long as you don't get Super Giant pushed anywhere.
I mean,
yeah.
Also, so what I think the practical effect of what that means is you're only allowed 2 restricted cards in your roster. So if you take one of these Infinity Gems, that's going to count as one of your restricted resources, so you cannot then take them as tactic cards, even though Infinity Gems are neither characters nor tactic cards anymore. So they don't count as part of your 10 tactic cards, but they are a restricted resource.
They're an other.
Okay.
Really
the other ones
fairly nerfs Black Order. I'm just saying.
Patch Up is pretty much the only generic healing card in the game. It is now restricted.
Yep.
Advanced R&D is restricted. Disarm is restricted. Indomitable is restricted. And Sacrifice is restricted. I don't know how often Sacrifice is getting taken. Apparently enough that it's restricted. Yes. But Advanced R&D and Indomitable I called from day one. I want to claim out loud.
Absolutely.
But
everyone knew that was public.
Advanced R&D is definitely on the line of is a good general card that a lot of people can make leverage of. However, it's also a key ingredient in a lot of really broken shit.
Yeah, there was a lot of even we said there was a lot of combos to start with. Okay, use Advanced R&D, and then X.
I'll say Jake on one of our games, top of turn 2, annihilated half my team on 1 attack.
Yeah,
because of Advanced
R&D. Well, Advanced R&D comboing into Siege of Darkness, which gave a ton of attacks, which let me daze half your team at the top of round 2.
Yeah. Well, same fucking thing.
Technically not, but so Advanced R&D is super strong. So it probably is a worthy candidate for restricted. So of your restricted resources, it's going to kind of come down to who is taking Reality and the Space Gem. Corvus was taking Reality as basically his standard loadout.
Yep.
So I honestly don't know how many other. I'd have to double check who can take Reality. I'm pretty sure Skull could take Space.
Thanos. I don't even think Skull could take Space.
No, that's right. He was long before the gems. New Skull can probably take Space.
New Skull is probably gonna take Space, but I'm actually kind of okay with them.
I think it comes down to Black Order. This is more or less.
It really only affects Black Order. Honestly.
On top of that, there has been an errata for Corvus's leadership. That kind of was. I didn't miss it. I missed it until I was doing research for today's episode. Corvus's leadership has been errata as of June 4th to read that only when a Black Order model dazes or KOs, other Black Order models get power. So Black
So-
Order is strongly disincentivized to splash.
And to answer the question on reality, the only two people who can take the reality gem are Corvus and Thanos. That is directly pinned at Black Order.
Haha.
Yeah. So, does it still lead to them being balanced with the rest of the game? Again,
Yes.
we can't answer that. We'd have to play some games. I
No,
suspect
yes.
it's gonna be okay.
No,
I mean,
because it's not. Because I now can't take Brace for Impact. I can't take Indomitable. I can't
mean,
take any of the other stuff.
You can. You get
No.
one of those.
No, because I'm going to be taking the other gem in my list. Get the fuck out of here, and you know it.
You made a choice, sir.
I made a choice
so
before all this nonsense.
I kind of I slightly disagree with it. And the reason why I slightly disagree with it is because it already costs a point, so you're already paying for it. And now it's also restricted, so you're getting a 2 penalty on it. And even though points is not really penalty, but you're still getting like 2 disadvantages of taking it. And
Is it because it's really good?
well,
rather it
one
costs 2
because it's
points.
really, really good and everyone takes it, but at the same time you're already paying the point. If that's the case, just say those 2 stones cost 2 points instead.
Yeah.
But they already knocked that down because I think those were the 2 stones that cost 2, or at least were some of them previously.
So I don't know.
mean-
I think they're trying to balance it, but
I agree with James. Like, not even coming as a Black Order player, but the balance is a bit cheap and unfair
yeah, you're getting
for
hit
that
twice.
specific faction.
It's a
Well-
tax twice.
Because
Oh,
Mr.
no.
Spider Friends over here doesn't have to pay any of that shit, and they're
Hey.
just as devastating and get more models than I do.
Hey, first of
Oh,
all,
here he
Web
comes defending
Warriors
Web
had the
Warriors.
only tactic card that was affiliation based that got rotated out.
Which was?
Web Barrier.
When was the last time you was Web Barrier?
I've used it once.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Shut the
see,
hell up.
Web Warriors did
My issue is I need that to play my list.
Web Warriors did get to keep Spider Tracker, which is now one of like the only like probably less than 5 tactic cards that give you out of activation movement.
Yeah,
no.
I
Spider Friends is still fucking amazing. They
Yeah.
don't have to change any of their tactics in order to play the game.
Turns
Yeah.
out, not really. I mean, we liked MedPack as much as anyone else.
Well,
So
oh.
did everyone else.
So-
Boo-hoo.
This kind of goes into one of my points, one of my takeaways is going forward. I think a lot of this was meant to encourage roster diversity. However, as a side effect, I think it's also going to encourage less splashing or more sort of building around an affiliation.
Yeah.
It's going to be less I have to include one more unit so that I actually have an affiliation of people just building kind of whatever they want, which again, depending on your roster preferences, that could go either way. I think a lot of the affiliations in the game are relatively healthy for model choice internally, so you can fill a lot of archetypes from the existing affiliations without having to splash. But you can be really, really rewarded when you do splash 1 or 2 models.
Unless you're Black Order.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
now, yeah, actually. Because now even
So-
Corvus goes against trying to fucking splash.
Part of the problem with that, though, is that some affiliations are better off than others when it comes to their tactic cards. Even just Avengers versus Cabal have relatively solid, easy to use tactic cards. Web Warriors has a couple good options, but then you have other affiliations like Black Order. Like we've talked about, Black Order has a couple very strong tactic cards now, especially with the new releases, but that you're not terribly excited about them. Guardians of the Galaxy, from some of the people in our local community, they're kind of really bummed out about this because Guardians does not have super stellar, or their tactic cards tend to be somewhat borderline.
I mean, they kind of
Criminal
needed rocket
Syndicate-
boots.
Criminal Syndicate, do you feel like they're okay running on mostly their own tactic cards?
Losing. So losing the I don't take damage from a throw.
You haven't lost it; it's still
It's
there.
still restricted.
Well,
But
from
Does
a
that
different
really
point of
does
view,
that really hurt us though? 'Cause
from a
it-
different point of view, would you argue that having a lot of formerly restricted cards moving to rotating out, does that actually make restricted choices easier? Because it used to be, okay, I have to take med pack
Yes, it actually kind of does. But for Criminal Syndicate
other than Black
and
Order.
Spider Foes, this doesn't really affect us because we're more of a later affiliations. Like Convocation, this is kind of like meh.
Yeah, Convocation was only taking like med pack
Yeah, so like
and
for
brace
like
for impact.
the later
Maybe.
ones, for the later groups, this kind of is like whatever. For if you play Cabal, Avengers, if you play any of the younger affiliations,
Older.
this
Being the
is
older,
the older
the
affiliations,
oldest,
the original, the OG.
the
Um,
elder,
the
the
this is going to
decrepit.
hurt you more. And I think that's why we're having like new Red Skull, new Captain America, is because I have a feeling that some of their tactic cards are going to fill in the spaces of this, and it's going to be affiliation
Yeah.
based.
Well, to an extent, Shield has. Like, Shield is a little unique now because Shield already had rules in their cards because a lot of their tactic cards in their like 10 deep list of tactic cards essentially say, hey, we know this is basically a reprint of another tactic card. You can't take both.
Yeah,
Lo and behold, the other cards that they were reprinting were in a lot of cases rotated out.
yeah. I
So
have a
now,
feeling we're
if
going to
you
be
want to play
seeing.
Med Pack, you're going to play Shield.
Yeah, I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot more of these generic uh cards, these tactic cards, not come up in the future. I think that they're going to be more specific. They're going to be more powerful towards a specific target or dealing.
Play style.
Yeah, I think you're going to see things like MedPack, Brace for Impact. I think you're going to see those things on characters or in affiliations as their bonuses.
Which I'm okay with if they scrapped all the tactic cards and then re-went. Here, only Black Order can use these. There's no generic ones. Like this is Avengers, this is Cabals. Have fun,
If they had
but
if they had a
I wouldn't
special
go that
rule,
far.
if they had a special rule for Black Order that said um gems in Black Order are not restricted. If you're playing Black Order
yeah,
as the affiliation, as part of their affiliation bonus is gems are not restricted.
I would like that.
I would see that
Maybe, but
because it
now
then
now we're
it then kind of like it doesn't give them the double tax.
now we're game balancing like current American administrations, where most of your time is spent undoing the last patch.
That is true.
I mean,
So I feel
fair.
like that's a counterproductive way to go.
But also,
But
I think the
they're
game
free to change
has.
things as the game
I
plays.
mean, and we saw this in like in War Machine and other games. Like the first few affiliations comes
Oh
out,
yeah,
and it's just like, oh, it's a very solid game. But then you start getting a little bit of the creep,
Yeah.
and it's just like the older stuff is like, why would you play that? It's crap. It's compared
yeah.
to the new stuff. And it's not even intentional, it just kind of happens. So I think doing this where you're rotating out cards and bringing new cards in, you're getting players who are just like, I don't want the base box. I don't want Avengers. Oh, I have to because I need to get this one card.
Reprinting the tactic cards as a bundle, I actually strongly agree with, even if it didn't come with a rotation. Just
Oh, yeah.
having a box of, we understand. Long story short, the base box should have been available as a one
As
stop,
a
pick everything
starter
up,
kit.
Mm-hmm.
but also should have been available as individual parts for people who only wanted some of it.
Yeah.
And they've been pretty good about that. Tactic cards and models were about the only things that you couldn't get anywhere else
So
because you
what
didn't
other?
have to buy the core set to get tools, dice.
Yes.
Yeah. So what other changes uh,
Um,
were a
we've
surprise to
talked
us?
That's
we've
pretty
talked
much the
about a
bulk of them.
majority of it. Sacrifice, I never really used the card too much. Sacrifice lets you throw an attack from one target to a nearby ally,
It's a
essentially
bodyguard.
bodyguard as a
bodyguard.
tactic card. But that never came. It was never really in my headspace of planning around. So I guess restricted's fine. Um,
I have used it. That was that one I do find a little. I mean, I understand why it's going to restricted because it should be, but it's a great card when
Yeah.
you have a lot of bodyguard in a list and you can just throw it out as an extra bodyguard.
You could probably make the argument that I think with a lot of these changes in tactics cards, we're going to see less generically good options. You're going to see much more specific, circumstantial stuff. But then you have to also kind of look at what are the affiliations you're playing, what are their options, because a lot of affiliations have very strong in-faction tactic card options.
So another thing that came out was the Black Order affiliation box.
Yes,
And the
four
Asgardian.
original
and the
and
Asgardian.
Asgardian.
So how do you guys feel about these new affiliation boxes that are dropping?
I like the idea
I
because
like the
honestly,
idea.
when I was getting into the game, I wish they had that because it makes it a really easy. Here's a starting point. Buy this box. You can buy these smooth mystics, buy these dice, and now I can play.
Yeah, I think it
Whereas-
also
Go ahead.
it kind of it nicely dovetails the fact that those models came out like a year ago and they're getting new models in. So it's also kind of like a refresh of, hey, the old boxes are out of print or hard to get for this affiliation. There's new models releasing for new players who want to jump into an affiliation. Here's a reprinted box.
I
Because
think
honestly, go ahead, James.
so I think it's actually good also because once again you don't have to buy the base box. So you don't have to, you're not stuck in, oh, I'm having to have to play Avengers or Cabal because I need all this extra stuff in it. Now you can just be like, but I like playing Black Order. I like playing Asgardians. Um, where do I start? I have to buy all these like 3 or 4 different boxes. Now it's just like, no, just buy that one box. It's your I think Privateer Press did that too at one point, where it's
Yes,
just like, here's your faction
a
box.
starter box. Yeah, that's how
So
you got into the game.
Here's enough for like the minimum level of points to
yeah,
play where you like battle box, like slow growth leagues were battle boxes of just you start with that and you can add like one model every week.
yep.
Mhm.
I hope they do
I
more.
don't know. I think it makes a lot of sense for a lot of the bigger affiliations, especially if they do come back around and add new models. Like if they add another 2 Guardians models, I'd be like, yes, get a Guardians of the Galaxy starter box. Do it.
And they are. That's probably why they're getting it.
Yeah.
Um,
I just really wish that Criminal Syndicate had a token.
get over it.
We still do not have a faction token.
Go
Oh,
to the
boo-hoo.
internet and figure it out. You've got a printer. You've got a 3D printer.
I mean, yeah, but it's not
Yeah,
my job.
What are you doing is waiting here for handout. Some company.
Criminal Syndicate.
Pull yourself up by your criminal bootstraps. This is
Yeah, and go
America.
steal yourself a token to.
I do
James,
steal
just go
myself a token.
Just go steal a token. There's your Criminal Syndicate one. They left it completely open to everyone's imagination.
Just going around stealing everyone else's token because that's Criminal Syndicate.
Yeah.
All right. So, closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. I think a lot of people are portraying this as like a mix somewhere between doom and gloom, and it's great. I land on the it's great. That's a really generic statement. However, things will grow and change as the game goes on. I think it's going to be one of the more interesting shifts going forward is if they keep up with this rotation idea and more stuff rotates over time.
Matt.
If that
As a player in the community, I am happy about it. It is a good. It feels like version 1.5. They finally figured out a way to kind of control it, keep it balanced with the rotating and keep competitive environment rolling. Unlike like you look at 40K, where this faction got their codex, everyone's fucked. As a person, I fucking can't stand it, and I want my goddamn Infinity Gems off the list so I can play my Black Order and have Brace for Impact and all the nice things like everyone else.
My opinions is I think that all Affinity Gems should be on the restricted list, and screw Black Order. So yeah, there you go.
Okay, what's your real opinion?
I think this is a legitimately good idea. I think getting rid of some of the more generic cards that everyone just decide like we would always do the same thing. We would build a list and we would immediately just go tactic cards, med pack, brace for impact, and one of the other standards. Cool. Now let's pick the other ones. And it was just that's how it went. Is that you just always picked it. and I think this is a good change, and it's definitely going to make people. It's going to be confusing for for the first couple tournaments. As people walk in and go, cool, I'm using this. No, that's now on the new restricted list. Pick something else. So, yeah.
I am curious to see how game stores are going to run their tournaments in terms of, are they going to follow the timelines, or are they going to go the unrestricted, extended
I know the
version?
newest, the Huzzah Hobby ones has said that this first tournament that's coming up is going to be the unrestricted one, just because
So
this is
extended.
just
It's
came
brand
out.
new.
Yeah. So
Which is that's also kind of an interesting choice. Because extended lets things that used to be banned or restricted back in.
I know.
So you might have like one person just going, hired muscle, auto win, bottom of one.
Yeah.
Suck it, nerds.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. So
I mean,
we'll
James now
see.
has to do that. I'm just saying.
I definitely don't want to give prizes to extended tournaments. Those are for there's too many weird bad feelings when someone gets shut down and just cannot progress.
I think it's just
Yes.
it's gonna turn into a kind of a hybrid where it's just like, yeah, some people play this, some people won't. But I think it's gonna be a fun tournament instead of a like
That's
hardcore
fair
tournament.
too.
All right,
I
well,
will say something to watch going forward is whether this rotation system applies to characters. Currently, it does not.
I don't think it will.
I hope it doesn't, because that creates a lot of feel bad moments for me in
Yeah.
order to play the game.
That I really hope they
hurt.
don't, because remember when they did that to say like Malifaux? Where it's just like, hey, you know those mods you had? You can't play them anymore. Ha 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 ha.
Because that's one of the reasons I got to Magic the Gathering. It's one of the reasons I stopped playing Warhammer a long time ago, because the Codex drops. It's essentially the same thing, and half your models are gone.
Yeah.
Then I don't want to play the game anymore.
I don't really support it myself, but I would be willing to make the argument for War Machine and Hordes. They might have been able to salvage some of their late game / what's currently happening if they had been willing to drop the total number of models that they were trying to balance.
I think if they had anyway, that doesn't matter. I hope they
That's my
do
only
not do
thought.
that here, because it's gonna be really hard to be like, no, Captain America's gone. Now, if they did like they removed it, but they had like Ultimate Captain America,
And
and
now
they
we're just
replaced it
dealing
with
with
something else, and you could use that model.
Like, if they
Sure.
want to do,
dealing with Captain America 2, and then Captain America 3.
I mean, fair.
Yeah,
Like, if they
well.
want to do fun, silly events like that, awesome. But if making it an actual standard of tournament,
Okay.
All right, we're good.
I'm sorry for that late game interruption.
But game off. Thanks, everybody.
All right, we'll see you guys in our streaming. So bye.
Bye.